Um, the White House, yes, not Donald Trump, but the White House, the official White House account, tweets out Shalom Columbia. Yes, this was on March 7th. The Trump administration, led by U.S. Department of Education and the Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, the Justice Department, Health and Human Services, and whatever, there's some schmutz on my computer, USGSA, has canceled $400 million in federal grants to Columbia over its failure to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitic harassment. So, yes, the Trump administration cancels $400 million in grants for Columbia University. From NBC News, the Trump administration on Friday announced that it would cancel approximately $400 million in federal grants to Columbia University due to the school's continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. The move comes just days after the administration's Joint Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism notified Columbia that it was going to conduct a comprehensive review, quote unquote, of the university's federal grants and contracts. The task force includes staffers from the Justice Department, Health and Human Services Department, Education Department, and the U.S. General Services Administration. In a statement explaining the cancellation of certain federal grants Friday, Education Secretary Linda McMahon implied that Columbia had not complied with federal anti-discrimination laws. Quote, since October 7th, Jewish students have faced relentless violence, intimidation, and anti-Semitic harassment on their campuses, only to be ignored by those who are supposed to protect them, she said in a statement. Universities must comply with all federal anti-discrimination laws if they are going to receive federal funding. For too long, Columbia has abandoned that obligation to Jewish students studying on its campus. Today, we demonstrate to Columbia and other universities that we will not tolerate their appalling inaction any longer. So, just to give a reminder, we're talking about this Columbia University. So, this was from May 1st, 2024, almost a year ago, just about 10 months ago. Ollie London, NYPD clash with Columbia protesters, making dozens of arrests and clearing the entire encampment in 2 hours. This was that infamous night of the massive police raid on Columbia University. So here's just a little reminder of the campus that was insufficiently harsh on pro-Palestine protests. Media. Yeah, they really let those pro-Palestine protesters have their way on that campus, did they not? Of course, New York police arrest 300 people as they clear Hamilton Hall at Columbia University. This referring to that same evening. Michael Tracy was there on the scene that night, and so he took some video. NYPD riot cops are officially storming Columbia University. I was just chased off the sidewalk. Thank you so much for keeping us all safe from non-existent anti-Semitism. Hopefully now Israel can continue to pulverize Gaza in peace. So here is the police presence at Columbia University. Again, this is the same campus that was just defunded for not going hard enough at protesters. And I remember Michael Tracy's tweet when he posted this. I've been wearing a nice big Star of David necklace this entire time at Columbia and oddly experienced no anti-Semitic harassment. It's almost like the people who claim to experience such harassment deliberately go around trying to provoke it for social media clouts. So this brings us back to today, or 2 days ago, technically, as of now. Tracy tweets, insane infringement on the First Amendment brought to you by the same people who constantly pontificate about how they are restoring free speech. Quoting the Wall Street Journal headline, the Trump administration is canceling the $400 million in grants and contracts to Columbia. So Tracy Benz, I don't know who this person is. I never heard of her. She replies, the federal government is not obligated to provide endless funds to private colleges that the executive determines don't deserve them. That isn't an infringement on free speech. It's sound budgeting. I mean, so Tracy comes back, obviously, says it's not a matter of budgeting. The First Amendment bars the government from conditioning the disbursement of funds on favored or disfavored political speech. Please at least stop pretending to be huge First Amendment defenders if that was just a cheap cudgel for you to use against Dems, which of course it was. Of course it was. And this was obvious from October 8th on. But, I mean, what a ridiculous thing to say. That somehow this is not an infringement upon the First Amendment because this is a budgeting decision. Like, again, I don't know who this person is. Like, I don't know why we care about what they said, but that is a very revealing thing. And his clapback is the more operative point there. The First Amendment bars the government from conditioning disbursement of funds on favored or disfavored political speech.
Well, the douchebag dialogues crowd has been working very hard to get their followers to see pro-Palestine activists as woke. And it's been to limited effect because generally I find most of the MAGA, most of the Trump supporters, they're not really down with the control that Israel has over the government and that Israel has over these figures like trigonometry and so on. They accept it because they like them a lot better than Democrats and liberals, but they don't like it. But they've been working very hard to tie this to issues they do agree with them on, like speech, to make that the same issue. This is the most successful I've seen them be yet. What you're seeing a lot of subscribers to famous right-wing author A. Chud saying about this, they've managed to blur their hatred for these kind of Ivy League institutions into it. Well, it's not protest anymore once you're a vandal. It's not protest anymore once you're blocking entrances. Like they're managing to kind of squeeze in a law and order, get out of here, you dirty hippies kind of thing. It's the most successful I've seen them be with getting the MAGA people to go along with these crackdowns on speech. They're managing to get it away from an Israel thing to I hate Columbia and people who go to Columbia thing.
Yeah.
Totally.
For sure.
Sorry about that, guys. My dogs were.
No, it's okay. Did you have any? No worries at all.
Yes. First of all, I forgot about that Michael Tracy tweet, which is pretty funny. He's got some occasional bangers on Twitter.
Oh yeah, no, he could be very good. He's been very, very good. Like since the election, like in terms of vetting all the nominees. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
So I was laughing at that, but also what Russ said is 100% true. It makes me insane. They prey on and they harp on again because we're in this moment of idiocy tribalism where they play on the resentment that people have toward colleges and these Ivy Leagues, and use it to attack speech. And it's funny because if you don't use your critical thinking skills or you don't have principles, like I have a principled if you don't have a principled commitment to the First Amendment, then it's easy to fall into that. And you'd be like, yeah, like whatever, like they're saying, but it's like they brutalized those students. And not only that, but I was losing my mind the other night when I saw a segment by Chris Cuomo where he was doing that exact routine, going off about how they were anti-Semitic and it was Jew hatred.
Right.
And it was making me crazy because I was like, you're just lying. You're just lying. These protests are not anti-Semitic. You have no evidence for that. You don't want to talk about the fact that there was a bunch of Jewish students at this protest. You want to make it about anti-Semitism. You want to make it about anti-college sentiment. You want to make it about everything except for what it is about, which is about Israel and about their genocide in Gaza and us funding it and places like Colombia being invested in it. And the fact that the Trump administration, that the same people are cheering that who cried 5 seconds ago about safe spaces and Black and queer purple-haired people having safe spaces are now like, we need a safe space. We need safe space. And it's like, it's actually like maddening. Because it's like, well, you're cheering the exact same thing that 5 seconds ago. It really is the meme I'm sure you guys have seen with the little Wojak guy, and it just takes a piece out of his brain and replaces it with like a new piece to like tell him what to be upset about or like what to be committed to. It's like the Trump administration will literally say on out of one side of their mouth, we're the administration bringing back free speech.
Right.
Okay. And then they're all like, yay, Trump's bringing back free speech. And then he's also like, you criticize Israel, defunding you. And Elise Stefanik came out and admitted just that when that announcement was made. They're like, she's like, we're not going to tolerate any anti-Israel hate. I'm like, oh, so you're just coming out and saying it.
Well, yeah, of course. And the school is basically caving. Columbia ready to work with Trump to bolster disciplinary process that was, quote, only on paper. Oh, really? The disciplinary process was only on paper. I'll refer you to this video once again. Media. Really? Media. There were only disciplines on paper. Is that right? Yep, that's true. Columbia University appears to be ready and willing to work with President Donald Trump and his administration. The university's interim president, Katrina Armstrong, issued a letter on Friday in response to the Trump administration cutting $400 million in federal grants to the school. Federal agencies that severed their ties with Columbia said it was because of the Ivy League institution's continued inaction in the face of persistent harassment.
What harassment? Show it to us.
The NYPD has not been able to name anything. They have not cited a single example of any of this.
There's no video. There are no reports. They're just making it up. And then when they're like, oh, the Trump administration stands ready to work with Columbia, wasn't the NYPD climbing up damn ladders to arrest people? Like, why are they acting? The actual, like, it's as maddening as when I feel like people rewrite history about now, like Black Lives Matter. They rewrite history about it. They rewrite history about COVID and about like Trump being president during COVID. And like now we're rewriting history about Columbia and the fact that Biden did allow them to crack down on them. Yep. Just because you weren't coming out and saying it doesn't mean he wasn't empowering them to crack down on them. And they still are. Fuck Columbia. Fuck Columbia. If you're thinking about sending your kid to Columbia, don't.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I said. I said they should boycott. They should absolutely boycott that university. That should go out of business.
I mean, it serves them right. I mean, on the upside, I'm very glad to see them get this cut. After kissing ass on the Zionist lobby, they still get their funding cut. Good.
Yes, and that was after they forced their other president out, their Black woman president out. And you know what's funny?
Well, no, the Black woman was Harvard. They had Manoush Shafiq.
That was Harvard.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Arab. They had an Arab
Manoush Shafiq.
Yeah. Okay. So that was after that. So all the caving didn't help anyway, because now Trump is coming in and saying, hey, you bunch of anti-Semites, daddy's here to take charge. It's like, I love when conservatives too be like, see, isn't this strong? He's coming up and cleaning house. I'm like, when I see that, I don't see strengths. I see a big pussy who not only is violating everyone's First Amendment, but is so cucked to Israel that he's like, what do you want me to do, daddy?
Well, this is the funny thing. I'm gonna spill the tea and go at the elephant in the room like I do. A lot of MAGA are not fond of our people, not meaning yours. I don't know what you are, but me and Keaton's people. A lot of them are fucking anti-Semites. Not all of them.
Wait, are you guys both Jewish?
Yeah.
Well, Keaton's a daywalker.
I'm half.
What daywalker? What does that mean? What does that mean?
For Blade, if you're a half vampire, you're a daywalker.
Yeah, daywalker. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I can't always tell. Like, see, if I wanted to be anti-Semitic to you guys, I would have walked right by you. I wouldn't have known.
That's true. We would have gotten away with it. We would have gotten off easy.
You guys are gonna have to wear a giant Star of David necklace,
like Michael Tracy,
or maybe a yellow star.
Yeah, right. Oh, like Michael Tracy had the bling with him.
Yeah, the bling.
Yeah.
A lot of them are anti-Semitic, and that's been part of the problem they've had selling this to them, even though they'll go along with anything else. So now this angle is working better. If you make it an anti-elite Ivy League college student, woke student angle. And like I said, they've been trying to push the woke thing for a while. It hasn't quite been clicking. It seems like finally a lot of Trump supporters have been able to square this circle that they're really not, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them are not crazy about Jews. And that's what Madison Square Garden, I was outside the big Madison Square Garden rally, and you had a bunch of Hasids who were, and a lot of Hasids are anti-Israel, but some of them are not. So these were, or they were Orthodox, holding up the Israeli flags. And the vibe of the Trump supporters around them was like, the boss wants us to put up with this shit. I guess we will.
Right.
But they were not down with it. But if you sell it to them as, yeah, we're going to fuck up Columbia, we're going to fuck up the kind of people who go to Columbia, that's the way to sell it to them. That's why I think this particular element is getting more traction than I've seen other attempts to get them on board with this have.
Right.
So going on, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Armstrong says in her letter that the funding cuts will immediately impact research and other critical functions, but she does not dismiss the Trump administration's claims. Rather, Armstrong writes that the university takes the cuts very seriously and is prepared to work with the government on its legitimate concerns, quote unquote. When I accepted the role of interim president in August 2024, I knew Columbia needed a reset from the previous year and the chaos of encampments and protests on our campus, Armstrong wrote. The university also needed to acknowledge and repair the damage to our Jewish students who were targeted, harassed, and made to feel unsafe or unwelcome on our campus last spring. Once again, no documentation of any of that. No video, no police report, no police accusation, no arrest, nothing.
Wait, was it Columbia with a girl with a shirt that said Jew?
No, that was a Yale. Yeah, that was a Yale. That was the failed Zionist troll.
Was that at Yale?
Yeah.
I thought it was at Columbia.
Yeah. No, that was definitely, that was definitely Yale. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm not afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I am not afraid.
I am not afraid.
That was we should have had for our New Year's Eve show most epic fail of the year.
Yeah, that would have been one. Maybe this next year we'll include that category.
Yes, I did that same thing. I did on New Year's. I did a New Year's stream, and I had favorite Zionist L's, and that was like number one.
Yeah, that was a big one. Yeah, definitely, yes. In a telling portion of her letter, Armstrong admits that Columbia University's disciplinary process previously only existed on paper, seemingly taking a jab at former Columbia president Manoush Shafiq. Columbia University has experienced renewed anti-Israel activity in the last few weeks. In January, students barged into an Israeli history class and distributed flyers with anti-Semitic and hateful rhetoric. Again, no example of what that was. No, this is Fox News, so they wouldn't list it even if they had it. The students were later expelled, sparking protests at Columbia's sister school, Barnard. Multiple protesters were arrested after they took over the Barnard College library in protest of the expulsion. And this tweet gets to what you guys are saying, and I share that sentiment. Despite being the most aggressive school in disciplining students, the Trump administration has withdrawn funding from Columbia. This should be a lesson to schools everywhere that no matter how much you appease Zionist moneyed interests, it will never be enough for them. Yes, they were horrible. They sicked the police. I mean, I don't know if this was a record. I heard people comparing this to 9/11 in terms of the amount of police deployed for no threat of violence whatsoever. Like an insane amount. I mean, there's video all over the place of just a line as far as the eye could see of police vehicles. So, yeah, like they bent the knee completely. They should be boycotted completely. I said that last year. I said this campus should be empty come the fall. They shouldn't even have a semester now. Who would want to go to this school now? Who? It's just what a horrible place. What a betrayal of like what a university is supposed to be.
Yeah. And these are the same motherfuckers that'll sit there and brag about their rich history of protest and open debate and thought. And then it's like, yeah, it's always easy to talk about the past and what you would have done and celebrate the heroes once they're already dead. It's always easy to do that. But at the time that it's actually happening, is what you would be doing then. So I don't need to hear Colombia talking about their history of rich protests and how they opposed South Africa's apartheid way too late, when this is how they're handling all of this now. Expelling students, sicking the cops on them in the most like draconian, psychotic ways, and then expelling them and saying anti-Semitic literature, more like they were probably like giving out things that said like Israel's an apartheid state, which it fucking is.
Right.
And then they had a meltdown and said it was anti-Semitism and they were feeling unsafe.
Right.
Where's Barry Weiss? Wasn't this her beat?
Oh, well, yeah, forget about that. But no, it's funny you mentioned how they're very proud of their rich history of protest, because that just triggered a memory. We did a segment on this where they apparently scrubbed an essay from their website that wrote favorably of the 1968 occupation of Hamilton Hall.
Yeah,
it was a
right,
Vietnam era
right.
occupation of Hamilton Hall. And there was an entry in their archives, whatever, oh, here's a cool looking dog. Are there 2 dogs?
Oh yeah,
two
yeah,
dogs.
I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. If I don't like do what they want, they'll cry.
Oh, yes. Kids are the same way.
Yeah, I am subject to them.
Yeah, that's how it goes. No, but they scrubbed an article from their archives that spoke favorably of the kind of protest that these students were engaged in. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They don't care about any
How
of it.
amazing is that? They're like, oh my gosh, look at this. We've got this rich history of protests, and look at how we honored the people of like Vietnam. And then it's like, they take it down? What? That's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep. They
Full
did
of
that.
shit.
Went
Don't
under the
send your
radar.
kid to Colombia.
No, absolutely not.
Send your kid to a state school. It's cheaper.
Please clap.